Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. ਹੈਗਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਤਲਕ ਨਹੀਂ, ਉਹਦਾ ਕੀ ਤਲਕ। أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. First of all, apologies for the delayed start for technical reasons. And this is chapter 3, verses 189 and 190 that I have recited for you. And their English translation is, in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of the night and the day, there are signs for men of understanding. Those who remember Allah, standing and sitting and lying on their sides, and reflect on the creation of the heavens and the earth. Our Lord, you have not created this in vain. Glory be to you. Save us from the chastisement of the Father. I have recited these verses to you because there has been a debate going on throughout the centuries about the existence of God. Previously, people simply believed that whatever happened happened because God had decreed that. And there were many things to which they ascribed supernatural sort of reasons. Volcanoes exploded. Why did they explode? Because you've done something to upset Allah, and He has exploded that volcano, etc., and many other things, floods and tsunamis and etc. And the people would give human sacrifices and other sacrifices to try and prove that, or try and satisfy and calm down Allah, calm down God, not Allah, who was angry with them for whatever it was that they did. And then science developed, and gradually we realized that there are natural phenomena that cause these things. For example, we realized that volcanoes do not erupt to punish human beings for some misdemeanor. Volcanoes do not explode because human beings had done something wrong, etc. They exploded because there was a natural phenomenon, which today is not the time to go into, etc. And then as science developed, we found the answer to one question, and then another question, and then another question. And because all these things had been attributed to God doing these things, people then started to question and say, well, is there a God? Does God exist? We've explained why volcanoes explode. We've explained why tsunamis happen. We've explained the motion of Earth round the sun and the moon round the Earth. So we can explain everything. And then there is this debate started about the existence of God. And people who believed in God, they started taking a step back, and philosophers call this the cosmological argument for or against the existence of God. You see, we said, what caused something? And people were saying God caused it. What caused a volcano to explode? And we said God. Why did he do it? We made him angry. But then science came along and said, no, it's a natural phenomenon. There's a build-up of pressure, and molten lava and so on is pushed through the rocks. There are cracks, there are weaknesses in Earth's crust, and these things get pushed. And as the Earth's crust is pushed aside under this pressure, we have earthquakes, and then the lava, the mantle of Earth and so on, gets pushed through, and because of the huge pressure, it then explodes into the skies and then falls back and so on. So science has explained that. This has nothing to do with God, said people. But then the believers came back and said, okay, we agree that it's the build-up of that pressure that causes, or that caused the volcano to explode. But what caused that pressure build-up? That was done by God. And so the argument went on. And then the scientist came along and he explained the cause of the build-up of that pressure. And then the person believing in God said, well, okay, fine, if I accept you, then what caused, whatever it was that caused the build-up impression? And so it went on. I mean, more recently, it has been, the argument has been conducted not in terms of volcanoes, but in terms of the Big Bang theory. And people ask two questions. You say this universe came into existence not because God created it, but because of the Big Bang. The question then naturally arises, what was there before the Big Bang? Before the Big Bang, what was there? And what caused the Big Bang? And the person believing in God would say, well, God was there before the Big Bang, and He caused the Big Bang. But some scientists say, well, maybe there was another universe before Big Bang, and that caused the Big Bang. So the question then is, the person believing in God would then say, okay, before the Big Bang there was another universe. Who created that universe? And so the argument goes on and on. You see, I mean, in terms of the Holy Quran, for example, we know that the Holy Quran says that the energy is going to deplete. Or in terms of physics, there's something called entropy, and they say entropy is going to increase. The lack of ability to do work is going to increase. And that will eventually cause the universe to collapse on itself. And it will collapse very rapidly. The question then arises, what will happen after that? And the Holy Quran in hundreds of places says that we have one creation and we use it and we take it and we make another creation. And the cycle of creations goes on, says the Holy Quran. So, yes, in terms of the Holy Quran, we can say this. But the scientist can then come up with another explanation. And he will say that we are not interested in individual things. We are not interested in the Big Bang or the volcanoes exploding and so on. What we want to know is what is the cause of everything. What is the cause of everything that happens in this universe? What causes all these facts that we observe? And if you say that, well, everything in the universe, everything that we observe can be explained by natural laws, and this is why scientists, it's now everyone, but scientists used to be, those who do doctorates are called doctors of philosophy, because it's philosophy that was trying to deal with these questions and so on. For example, there's one group of philosophers called, for example, libertarians, and they say that as long as a majority of their own free will decides something, that is fine. As long as something is done for the good or the pleasure of the maximum number of people, that is it, that is fine. But anyway, so the physicist will say, well, fundamental laws explain everything. Using basic laws of physics, I can explain why I let go of something, it falls to the ground. Using principles of physics, I can explain why a ship floats, why an aeroplane flies, and everything else. Why double glazing keeps homes, buildings warmer than having single panes of glass, etc. Yes, fine. So you can explain everything by these fundamental laws of physics and chemistry and so on. But the question then arises, the believer in God would say, who created those fundamental laws? Where did they come from? Is it more believable that there is a supreme power that has created laws to keep the universe in order, or is it more believable that there was nothing? I mean, what is nothing? People say before the Big Bang there was nothing. So if there was nothing, how did this space come into being? But anyway, is it more believable that you have nothing and you have the Big Bang and suddenly, automatically, all these laws that we can observe and we can find out came into operation? Is that more believable, or is it more believable to say that there is a being called God, a divine being, a supreme creator who brought all these things into existence? But you see, the difficulty with such explanations is this, that you have two people, they have access to the same information and they come to radically different conclusions. You had Einstein and you had Heisenberg. Einstein didn't believe in the quantum theory. Why didn't he believe in quantum theory? Because he said, I can't believe God will play dice for the universe. He followed the deterministic principle, and that is that you find a law and then you can predict what will happen. But Heisenberg's uncertainty principle said, no, you can't. You can't find out everything with absolute certainty. He said, if you find out one thing with absolute certainty, then your knowledge of something else will be uncertain. And quantum theory then came up with a probabilistic explanation for things that can happen. And they say, even what seems impossible to us, there is a possibility, there is a probability that it may happen. That probability may be very small, but it still exists. And Einstein said, no, that is not true. And you see, you have two people, two brilliant people. They have access to the same information. One says one thing, the other says the other. And we saw recently, and we can see now. For example, the Conservative government, all the ministers and the Prime Minister and so on, they have access to the same information. And one set of people are saying, well, if the Prime Minister does what she proposes, it's bad for the country. The other set of people are saying, no, if the Prime Minister does what she is saying, it's good for the country. And these people are experts in the field of politics. They've spent their lives in that field. They have all the information that is possible to have. And yet the two are arguing about different things. And this is why Hazrat Sahib came up with a brilliant reason, with a brilliant experiment which would determine conclusively whether God exists or not. And he said, let's not argue about physical laws, etc. Because we're arguing about something that is there. He said, let us try and attain to God. And let us call on Him. In other seek closeness to Him and pray to Him. What he was saying was, make God your friend. And if you have a problem and you ring your friend and you say, I've got a tire puncture, I'm stuck on the motorway on the M4, I don't have a spare. Well, these days cars don't have spares. I don't have a spare. I'm not a member of any motoring association. Can you help me in some way? If he is your friend, he will come and answer. He will come and help you. If he doesn't, there can only be two things. One, he is not your friend. And two, he doesn't exist. There can't be a third route. So, he said, let us pray to God. And if your prayer comes true once, well, okay, it's happened. The second prayer comes true, well, it's a coincidence. The third one comes true, well, okay, maybe. But when the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and the seventh, and when you pray to God and God answers and says, no, I'm not going to accept this particular prayer, and he rejects it for whatever reason, then you know that there is a God. It's the closed room argument. There is a room, all the doors and windows are locked, curtains are drawn. Hey, you've done this. You've gone to see a friend, and you, as most people do, try and look through the curtains of the sitting room. You can't see anyone, or the curtains are pulled. You knock on the door and there is no reply. And you come to the conclusion there is no one there. But if you knock on the door, whether you can see someone through the window or not, and you hear a sound and someone says, hang on a minute, I'll be down, then you know there is someone there. And it gets round all these arguments about but what was before. Because you're talking about now. It's happening now, it's happening in front of you. And it's happening over and over again. We've seen this in our own homes with Hazrat Maulana Abdul Haq Vidyarthi. He was on a missionary tour and hundreds of miles away, and he wrote a letter saying, I've had a vision, I've seen a dream that my youngest son has got lost. Has he got lost? And you're not telling me? Or is he okay? So everyone said, no, he's okay. But that vision came true decades later. His youngest son went to the United States, and after some time, everyone lost touch with him. His wife, his children, brothers, sisters, people have looked for him. People like Chaudhry Masood Akhtar Sahib, the marhum, who went to the United States, they tried to find him. But no one knows what happened to him. Okay, so it happened once. But then it's happened over and over and over and over again. For example, a political leader was assassinated in Pakistan, and that day he came down for breakfast and he said to people sitting for breakfast, Allah protect Pakistan. And people said, why? And he said, well, I've seen the funeral prayer of a very important person. And it's going to cause a lot of problems. And they were talking, and in the meantime the telephone rang, and they got the news that the chief minister of that province, of that state, got up onto the stage to make a speech. There was a bomb under the stage which was blown, and he died. And when someone asked Maulana, did you know who it was? Did you know who it was? If you did, and you told us, maybe we could have saved his life. And Hazrat Maulana said, when God showed me in a vision that this was this man's funeral, how could you save him? God had decided that this man is going to die. And he showed me his funeral. Now you see, the point is this. What did Hazrat Maulana have to gain or lose by saying this man is going to die? He wasn't a politician. He had no interest in politics. He wasn't going to get a house or a piece of land or a factory or license to import something to make him a millionaire or a promotion or whatever. But because he was close to God, God would reveal to him things. God would talk to him. God would tell him things. See, this has happened. We've seen this happen in our families, in the Lahore Ahmadiyya Jamaat. So when people say, what is the argument for existence of God? I can say to them, I have observed God speak to people. You tell them things which they had no way of knowing. And those things have come true. Some immediately, instantaneously almost. Some decades later. How did he know when his youngest son was very small that he'd got lost and everyone's looking for him? These are his words. Everyone is looking for him and no one can find him. And that was literally, this is what happened. Because he had a source of information which others lacked. And that was Hazrat Sahib's point, that if this happens over and over and over and over again, how is this man doing it? If there is no God and this man says something and it comes true, well, why don't you make him the Prime Minister? Because he knows things, what's going to happen. He knows if I declare war on this country, whether we'll win or lose. He knows if I do this, whether I'll become popular or unpopular. He knows that if I put this economic policy into effect, whether the country will prosper or will become poor. Make him the Prime Minister. There is no God, but he has access to some source of information that can tell him. So this is, you see, this is why Hazrat Masih Maud was the promised Messiah, that he rose above these philosophical debates. Well, if universe was created not by God, by the Big Bang, what created the Big Bang? You can't tell me, can you? So it must have been God that created the Big Bang. Then the scientist comes up with an explanation why Big Bang took place, like with the volcano, and okay. But who caused that thing to happen so that the Big Bang would take place? These are circular arguments that go back. But the method Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib taught us for searching for God, for proving the existence of God, shows that if you follow that method, there is no doubt. It leaves no doubt in your mind that there is a divine being. That is the embodiment of all knowledge. And if we follow him, if we talk to him, he will then help us and tell us what is going on and what is happening. Yes and yes. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم اللهم اخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون عباد الله اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر